Hey gang, my name is Repaired Gnome, and welcome back to the channel. So some of you might have realized or noticed at all that I've released a few updates to at least the first three Five Nights at Gnomes games over the past few days. Especially like a little bit into last year. But even now on this day, at least the 9th, as I'm recording this now. Anyways, so I updated a little bit of some of the first two games and a big major update into the third one, so I'll get to that momentarily, but I'll first elaborate on the first ones. So most of the first two games, their updates were mostly quality of life focused. I mean, that's even what most of them are called, quality of life updates, and then of course a major update for the third game. So most of them pertain to audio fixes, etc., and a few canon adjustments because I made some mistakes with it. I will say that my prime determination more had to do with the technology and the user interfaces the player interacts with to determine what dating actually more accurately works. So for that reason, I'm making a few adjustments in that department. So the first game, real quick, all I did was just make a few audio changes, mostly volume related, but I even replaced a few audios with some that were a little more tolerable. Now with those, the first game and in general some of the earlier games tended to use a lot more audio I made myself, which is fine, of course, but meant that like some of it just didn't work as well. Even basic user interface tended to just be me saying just messed up in Audacity and all that. So point being, sometimes you can do well making your own audio, but if you're a total newbie at it, it's gonna suck. And that's pretty much the kind of feel that the first game at least had, was that it had so much of that it became almost it felt blurry. I don't know how else to describe it. That's kind of like the visual idea I have with it, just because of how unclear the audio was. So I added a few that were just like from the public domain and all that. A few sounds like some flashlight sounds and whatnot that I felt just worked a lot better. A few other changes. I added a flashlight tooltip for new players, so it'll just show up there, so you can know you just click on the doorway and boom, you can just flash it. A few static changes, which might make it a little bit harder. Not so much, maybe. It depends. It doesn't at all do the whole footsteps thing anymore wherever they move. So the only case they should realistically do that, if I can recall correctly, is whenever it's just Tanker moving out of the hallway, meaning you repelled him. I think that's what I've done. Anyways, you shouldn't be hearing that on a constant basis anymore. So it's a little more polished, I'd say. Though, in general, that's a game I might remaster someday. That being said, the second game, I did a little more significant changes. So, like, obviously, I, again, changed some volume issues. It's been about 9 days since I released this update, and it makes mention that I made some movement changes for them. I'm gonna say I don't exactly know what that means, but I think like the core change that I made was possibly the biggest confusion for new players. I know even Casey had this issue, where you'd get onto the camera and you wouldn't know how to get out. Now, I guess I was cutting corners with this because I wasn't exactly the person who worked on UI as much as I do now. I think I've kind of got to the point where I've nearly mastered that. But what you did in that was just click where the screen would be behind it, which is not intuitive, and you kind of have to guess that, which can be very imprecise, etc. So I pretty much added this user interface area. It's not even user interface. It's meant to make it look like it's part of the screen that's producing the image. So like it's just a red button you press, and boom, you're just sent back. So that just makes it a little more immersive and a lot more convenient for the player, I would say. Um, yeah, again, newspaper adjustments, etc. You know the drill. Additionally, I fixed the music box audio. With that, Click Team wouldn't like at all play it per se. It didn't detect it as even audio per se. How you usually fix it when you come across that is switch its type. So if it's MP3, switch it to WAV. If it's WAV, switch it to MP3, and that usually tends to get it working. So now you'll actually hear that too. The third one's the most major update, and I would also say it had like many of the most issues per se. Like, I mean, audio-wise, one had a ton of issues if you just focus on the audio department, but three definitely had some issues. I know I got some complaints during the stream that Casey and one of his friends had did, where there were complaints about frame rate. That more had to do with whether or not the loading screen showed, and I know I came across an issue where it just wouldn't show, and part of me just eventually gave up on it and added this debug number to make you know for sure that it's running, which didn't even work most of the time. So this time I've pretty much fixed that. It works a lot more smoothly now. I also apparently forgot for the fifth night and eighth. Yeah, it was the eighth folder just wasn't in the game, which I honestly find hilarious. So largely that's been fixed. Again, audio, especially like Ambience 3, my goodness, Ambience 3 was so loud. So that's been largely fixed. I mean, still the loudest one, but still much quieter, and it doesn't hurt the ears as much. Now, I will just say I'm gonna close my window real quick. I will just say that, with some of the changes I've made it so that pretty much when you start the game for the first time with this update, it will have this, it will very much reset your data, meaning you're gonna be starting from night 1 and whatnot. It's for a matter of convenience, and pretty much one of the issues I recall was that if you finish night 5, you'll still be on night 5. My phone needs to stop talking. Right, if you finish night 5, you'll still be on night 5, meaning you can keep playing it over and over and over again, which is kind of stupid. So now it just goes back to 1. So you start off at 1 when you play on this new update. There's a certain variable that does that, and you'll be able to play through those nights. It should be a lot more of a smoother experience, I assume. I changed the Casey virus. So what that was originally supposed to do was that it would show up if you don't have antivirus, and how you fixed it was turning the computer off, which would only hurt for Rhythm and Scent, technically. And it didn't work in the sense that it wouldn't actually, turning off wouldn't get rid of him. And it was a thing I just decided, you know what, punish the player for not using antivirus for nights 4 and 5. So in this case, the change I am doing with that is he's a thing that pops up. He'll bounce around the screen a set number of times, around 3 or 5, it really depends. And you pretty much need to click him before he bounces enough times, or he'll power your computer off, which can be very inconvenient. So it's an inconvenience you choose to take on, since of course you got the buffs system. So Casey's a lot more doable. It's more inconvenient with one of the lighter features. So one of the things I know I'm sure somewhere upset about was that Five Nights at Gnomes 3 had no custom name. And that was a decision made entirely off of the fact that it has a completely different gameplay structure. It's not a 12 to 6. You are doing task to task. So you are completing... And I think the primary inspiration for this game was like Jollibee's 2 or something like that. So you just complete the task and then you end the night. So downloading folders in this case. And I couldn't see, easily at least, how you could set up a custom night with that. I eventually realized that what you could do, and this is what I went with, is that you can have a set number of folders to download. In this case, that I can only fit 21 in there. And that is a set difficulty you take upon yourself. And it was a bit of a difficulty to do that, but yeah, it is a thing now. So you can set how many folders you get to download in that night. And yet, all the characters are max 21 AI. Rhythm, of course, is Rhythm 0. He's a toggleable is the on or off. And I decided I would add two characters who weren't necessarily canon. Now, technically, these characters were supposed to be in the original, and I mean like 2022 edition of what Five Nights at Gnomes 4 was supposed to be. Even in the current version of that game, those two are not distinctly canon per se. So overall, they're just not canon. It's Withered Casey and Withered Tanker. So I think I was thinking about adding a tooltip where you just hover over it and it'll just like tell you like what to do with them. I'll just tell you up front. Even with the notes I put up in the Game Jolt page, I still made sure to at least give a little bit of a suggestion. So Casey, he'll just show up where Gnome might show up and just stare at you for a moment. He's more twitching or whatever, but he's essentially a Golden Freddy-esque figure where you can't look at him. You have to put your monitor up and he'll disappear. If you don't, then he's of course going to just go and kill you. Which makes him possibly, in my experience, one of the most deadly characters I had to deal with, in my opinion. And combined with Casey Virus, which is a sore irony, I say, that it's both Caseys, they're a deadly duo in that Casey Virus will turn your computer off, and there's a chance that Withered Casey might be there, and he might try to kill you. And, well, that's very inconvenient, I'd say. So you gotta balance that. I tried the max mode, maximum mode. I have a certain name for that one. The Maxentius challenge. It's really difficult. Now, Tanker is a lure character. He's actually using a feature that I was supposed to originally implement as what Scent Spiral was supposed to do. Traverse across the hallways. That's what he was supposed to do. This time, yeah, I think the main reason I didn't include that was because of my last computer. This old, 10-year-old workstation just couldn't handle all those assets. So now I've implemented it, and instead Tanker uses it. You have a chance of locating him and being able to lure him within about, 3 points from him. And if you have antivirus on, you're less likely to actually detect him, because you're blocking signals, including good signals. Silent computing also will slow him down because he's less attractive to you in the same way that Gnome is. So that gives silent computing an extra purpose. And if he gets to you, you're kind of cooked, okay? So he's difficult, but if you pay way too much attention to him, he can't do anything. So it's up to you. I've pretty much put a little teaser for the fourth game up as a reward for beating it, so good luck on Maxentius, I'll say that. Yeah, but most other changes, of course, I said were audio. Scent Spiral now does a bit of a hammering sound as he gets closer, so you gotta watch out for that, I suppose. Is there anything else I should be aware of? Bug fixes? Any other bugs that might have been? Oh, yes. Computer. That'll actually make a sound to indicate when it's ready to be turned on, alright? Because that was like a 10-second time. Nobody ever knew that. So I've made that a little bit clearer. So overall, just making these games more functional, more playable, and also kind of just letting you know that, the fourth game, I'm still very much working on that. A lot more recently, but, I'm working on it. So, thank y'all for listening for this duration. I hope I didn't bore you, but I hope you have fun, particularly with Custom Night. It's unlocked, of course, if you beat Night 5, which generally I say the base game is pretty easy as is. I've kind of categorized this as a bit of a DLC, kind of, because of how big the change is. Yeah. I hope you have fun with this. Goodbye.